Want to bet? That earned him a sharp look, but also just barely a smirk. They spent the next few hours elbow deep in circuitry, trading insults that slowly softened into laughter. When sparks flew from a badly grounded cable, Sella yelped, ears flattening, and Ryan instinctively reached out, brushing her hand aside to steady the arc. "Hey, careful," he said. "You'll fry your fingers. I've been working with plasma reactors since before you learned to tie your boo-careful human. If you cross those wires again, I'm not cleaning you off the ceiling." Love HFY Sci-Fi and unlikely romances? Hit subscribe and join us as a human mechanic and a foxhard fugitive rewrite the stars together. The reactor bay hummed like a sleeping beast lit in warm orange and blue where plasma conduits breathed through the deck. Tools were scattered everywhere. Spanners, plasma wrenches, one very melted sandwich wrapper, and in the middle of it all sat her. Sella leaned over the open hatch, strands of her black hair glowing amber in the reactor light. Unusual color, he'd been told. Most Vulpine had silver or russet fur, not midnight tones that shimmered like oil. She looked up as Ryan crouched beside her, grease-stained, tired, but grinning. "Anyway, didn't you say this thing was safe?" he asked, squinting into the exposed chamber. "It was," Sella said, her voice smooth as static until a certain human decided to improvise with a plasma coupler. He opened his mouth to defend himself. Then the reactor gave a warning beep that sounded suspiciously like a countdown. Sula froze. "Ryan, what did you—" The chamber flared, a bloom of light spilling across their faces. She lunged forward, tail brushing his arm as both dove for the emergency shut-off, their laughter mingling with alarm. When the light dimmed, they were both lying on their backs, panting, surrounded by the faint smell of burnt insulation. Sella turned her head toward him, ears twitching. "Congratulations," she murmured. "You've officially matched my record for near-death experiences before breakfast." Ryan grinned, staring at the ceiling. "Guess that makes us partners, huh?" Her tail flicked again, slow this time. Temporarily, the reactor hummed quietly between them, like it knew better. By the time the alarm stopped blaring, the ship's captain had made it perfectly clear that if either of them caused one more emergency, they'd be ejecting into vacuum without suits. Sella took the threat with the serene dignity of a temple priestess. Ryan, on the other hand, had to bite the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing when the captain stomped away, muttering about children with power tools. When the hatch finally sealed and the room quieted, the two of them stood in the soft hum of cooling plasma conduits. Sulka's tail twitched, still puffed from adrenaline. Ryan glanced at it, then back up, trying and failing not to smirk. "Something funny?" she asked without looking at him. "Just thinking," he said. "Your people evolved from foxes, right? So theoretically, if I throw a ball to you..." Her glare could have vaporized a small asteroid. "Finish that sentence, human," she warned. "And you'll be extracting that ball from your own power coupling." He laughed anyway. He couldn't help it. Something about her composure made teasing irresistible. They'd only met a week ago, but already he'd learned that Sella didn't back down from anything. Not arguments, not technical challenges, not even catastrophic power surges. And yet, beneath her sharp tongue and perfect posture, she carried something else. An odd hesitation, like she was always holding part of herself in check. When he'd asked where she was from, she'd only said, "Someplace that doesn't exist anymore." Now, as she knelt beside the open maintenance hatch, Ryan watched her slender fingers move with impossible precision, dark hair spilling forward as she reconnected the crystal regulators. "You're good at this," he said. "Obviously." "No, I mean really good. Like taught by an academy of scary alien professors." "Good." She gave him a sidelong glance, eyes catching the reactor's glow. "Maybe I just have talent." "Yeah, and I have a third arm hidden somewhere," Brienne said. "Come on. Nobody gets that kind of wiring intuition without training." She smiled faintly but didn't answer. He crouched beside her, handing tools worthlessly as she worked. Despite the bickering, they fit together well. His messy, intuitive tinkering paired with her methodical precision, where she measured twice and calculated, he guessed, tried, and somehow made it work. It drove her mad. At least it had at first. Now, though, there was something almost playful in the way she corrected him. "Clamp that line, not the blue one," she said. "Too late." "Then enjoy explaining to the captain why we suddenly have reverse gravity." Ryan froze. "Wait, reverse what?" Sela grinned. "Kidding?" He exhaled, rolling his eyes. "I hate you." Mutual, but her tone was light, teasing. By the time they sealed the final panel, hours had passed unnoticed. The engine bay dimmed to its normal pulse, the chaos replaced with soft, synchronized rhythm. Sela sat back, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. For a moment, she looked almost peaceful, ears relaxed, tail gently sweeping behind her. "You know," Ren said, For someone who threatened to murder me 3 times today, you're surprisingly good company. She didn't look at him, but he saw the corner of her mouth twitch. And for a human with no concept of caution, you're tolerable. That's practically a compliment. Don't push it. He leaned back against the bulkhead, gazing at the slowly turning lights of the reactor core. So tell me, why do you really sign on with this junk heap of a freighter? You could be doing real engineering on a planet somewhere. Her smile faded. The glow reflected in her eyes like twin stars. Let's just say planets are complicated. Complicated how? Complicated in ways humans don't need to know? He nodded, sensing the boundary. Fair enough. Silence stretched between them. Not awkward, but heavy in a comfortable way. 2 strangers bound by shared danger and duct tape. Eventually, Rian stood and stretched. You eat? Acela tilted her head. Eat? Oh yeah, food sustenance. That thing that keeps you from keying over mid-repair? I'm familiar with the concept, she said dryly. Then come on. The captain keeps nutrient packs somewhere behind the coffee machine. She blinked. The what machine? Oh, you're about to meet humanity's greatest invention. Minutes later, they were in the galley where Ryan triumphantly produced 2 steaming cups of something that looked and smelled questionable. Scylla sniffed it, tail flicking. This smells like burnt soil. Close, Ryan said, sipping. It's coffee, she eyed him, ears perking slightly. You drink dirt? Only when it's good dirt. Her expression softened despite herself, amusement glinting in her golden eyes. Humans are strange. Yeah, he said, smiling. But we're great at fixing things. Scylla held his gaze for a long second, then lifted her cup. We'll see about that. Their cups clinked gently, reactor light flickering through the galley window as the freighter drifted through the starlit dark. 2 unlikely engineers, and a story that was only just beginning. Rian woke to the sound of cursing, and not just any cursing, but the kind that carried cultural weight. Volprin swears had a melodic, almost artistic quality to them, like someone performing opera while furious. He rolled off his bunk, half-dressed, and stumbled into the engine bay to find Scylla crouched over the open plasma manifold, her tail puffed out in every direction like a spiky black storm cloud. I take it something's wrong, he said, rubbing his eyes. Your human patch job from yesterday decided to melt, she snapped, flicking a bit of sizzling insulation off her glove. Now half the starboard coolant lines are fried. He leaned against the wall, watching her glare down the reactor like it had personally offended her ancestors. Well, if it makes you feel better, it's probably just one of the cheap parts the captain bought. Scylla's ears swiveled toward him. Do human males always blame their tools when something fails? Only when it's actually the tool's fault? She gave a soft growl, but didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed a wrench and started working again. Movements precise and mechanical, too controlled for someone truly angry. Ryan crouched beside her. Here, he said, offering a new seal. Try this one. Titanium composite. I said I had it handled, and I said, I don't trust you not to explode us. Her head whipped toward him, eyes narrowed. You're impossible. Correction, I'm efficient. You are neither. Tess. Yeah, well, your plasma reactors probably had safety warnings in Vulpine, not the universal language of don't touch that. It's hot. She gave a reluctant laugh, a quick flash of teeth. You really are fearless, aren't you? Not fearless, he said. Just used to bad ideas that work out anyway. Her tail twitched thoughtfully, and for a rare moment, she didn't argue. When they finally reactivated the manifold, the hum of power filled the air again, smooth this time, steady. Scylla watched the readouts, expression softening into reluctant satisfaction. You did it. We re-inked it. Team effort. She tilted her head. You're not the worst partner I've had. He grinned. High praise. I'll engrave that on my tombstone. She rolled her eyes, tail swishing. Just don't make me regret saying it. Too late. Already framed it in my mind. Later, as they packed up their tools, Ryan noticed her pause by the viewport. Beyond the glass, the stars stretched like silver threads across the void, each glimmer reflected in her eyes. You ever get tired of it? He asked quietly. The running? She froze. What makes you think I'm running? He shrugged, sitting on the floor beside her. Just a feeling. You're too smart, too careful. Doesn't fit the whole wandering mechanic vibe. Scylla sighed, a soft sound that made her shoulders drop a little. My people don't exactly reward curiosity, she said at last. We're supposed to serve, not explore. Build, not question. I chose otherwise. Ryan nodded. Yeah, I've been there. Back home, my brother runs a whole shipyard. Wanted me to take over. I took one look at the contracts and ran for the nearest shuttle instead. A brief silence hung between them. The hum of the ship filled it. Steady, familiar. Solka looked at him, eyes gentler now. You ran towards something. I ran away. Doesn't matter, Rian said with a crooked grin. We both ended up here, right? She studied him for a moment longer, then nodded. Maybe fate likes idiots. He chuckled. Then we're in good company. A soft beat from the comms console broke the quiet. The captain's voice crackled through, gruff as always. Ketra 7 refueling station in 20 minutes. Docking Bay 3. You two don't blow anything up before we get there. Sella smirked faintly. You heard the captain, human. Try not to ruin our reputation. I'll do my best, Brienne said, grabbing his tool belt. As they left the bay, she glanced sideways at him. Your best usually ends in minor fire damage. Details, details. Sella's laughter followed him down the corridor. A soft, melodic sound that made the metal walls feel just a little warmer. He grinned to himself. Maybe, just maybe, this job wouldn't kill him after all. The freighter Kestrel's wing docked at Ketra 7 with the usual groaning protest of old hull plates and half-functioning magnetic clamps. Ryan and Scylla stood by the airlock, both armed with tool belts, data pads, and mutual distrust of routine errands. The captain's voice rasped over comms. Station security's twitchy today. Supply Bay 12's restricted to bonded pairs only. Maintenance partners, spouses, whatever. We need those coolant cells. So pick your poison. Scylla frowned. Bonded pairs. Ryan blinked. Wait, you mean like couples? The captain said flatly. Hold hands, smile, pretend you like each other. Don't start a diplomatic incident. Before either could object, the channel cut off. Ryan turned slowly. Well, congratulations, partner. Sulka's ears flicked backward. If you touch me, human, I'll weld your hand to the bulkhead. Relax, he said, smirking. It's just an act. I'll even buy you lunch afterward. She gave a dry laugh. I'd rather starve. The station was a rust-streaked maze of corridors, flickering signage, and the kind of smell that came from too many species using the same air system. They passed vendors hawking everything from plasma batteries to fried something or other on sticks. Sella moved with effortless grace, tail flicking to avoid contact in the crowd. Ryan, meanwhile, kept trying not to bump into anyone or her. Stop walking like a scared recruit, she murmured. I'm sorry, your tail's like a trip hazard with fur. Her ears twitched. Then stop staring at it. I'm trying not to. It keeps moving. She glanced sideways, suppressing a smile. You humans truly have no self-control. Not when I'm this close to a walking flamethrower in a jumpsuit. No. Her laugh slipped out before she could stop it. You're impossible. And you like it? Delusional. They reached the customs checkpoint. A metal arch, flanked by 2 robotic guards. The attendant, a weary reptilian clerk, raised an eye ridge. Bond certification. Sella hesitated, then slid her arm through Rian's. Of course, she said sweetly, tail curling behind them like punctuation. Ryan nearly choked. Her fur brushed against his bare forearm, warm, soft, and very distracting. He managed a crooked grin. Yep, bonded. Totally legit. The clerk eyed them both side and stamped the pass. Humans, he muttered. Always mixing with trouble. See, Ryan whispered as they walked through. That wasn't so bad. Silka kept her chin high. Speak for yourself. Your heart rate spiked during questioning. You were monitoring me? Professional curiosity. More like voyeurism, she elbowed him lightly. Careful, human. You're lucky I'm committed to the role. They reached the supply depot, stacked high with metal crates and humming coolant drums. Ryan started checking labels while Sella connected her data pad to verify quantities. It should have been simple until 2 station thugs approached. Their uniforms mismatched, their grins too wide. Well, look what wandered in. One draw, a human and a fox. How exotic. Rand didn't look up. Not interested. Move along, the second thug snorted. Not polite to ignore security. Not polite to impersonate them either, Brienne said. He straightened, eyes cold. Want to try again, or do I call the real ones? Sella's tail stilled, tension radiating off her. Ryan? He held up a hand. It's fine. They'll leave, the first thug sneered. You think you're tough, off-worlder? Ryan smiled a little too calmly. No, I think I'm busy and you're wasting my time. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Sella's datapad beeped perfectly, breaking the silence. The thugs glanced at each other, muttered curses, and backed off. When they were gone, Sella turned to him, eyes wide. You could have gotten us both killed. He shrugged. Or I could have gotten us a discount. Unbelievable. But her voice trembled, not with anger, but with something closer to all. You really didn't flinch. Not when I've got you backing me up. Her ears flicked, betraying the faintest hint of fluster. I wasn't backing you up. I was calculating escape routes. Sure you were. They worked in silence for a while after that, though Ryan noticed she stood a little closer now, tail occasionally brushing his leg when she moved. Whether that was by accident, he couldn't tell. Once the cargo was loaded, they made their way back through the crowded promenade. Sella's eyes darted toward a group of uniformed Vulpine officers near a terminal. Her breath barely perceptible, but enough for Ryan to notice. "Friends of yours?" he asked quietly. Not exactly." He followed her gaze. The officers wore the crest of the Vulpine authority. High-ranking, searching. Ryan gently placed a hand on her arm. "Keep walking." She hesitated, but obeyed. "How did you—" "Because," he said with a lopsided grin. "I know the look of someone trying not to be seen." Sella glanced up at him, a dozen questions in her eyes, but she stayed silent. By the time they reached the ship, the tension had dissolved into tired laughter again. As the airlock sealed, Ryan let out a low whistle. "Well, that was a successful date." She shot him a glare. "You call that a date?" "Hey, we held hands, argued, almost got arrested." Classic first date material. Sulka's tail flicked once, betraying a small, reluctant smile. "If that's your idea of courtship, human, I pity your species." "Don't," he said. "You're falling for it already." Her ears went flat, but the blush that touched her cheeks told him she hadn't expected the joke to hit home. "Sleep well, Rian," she muttered, brushing past him. "Before I changed my mind about letting you live," he grinned as the hatch slid shut behind her. He'd gotten under her skin, and somehow he suspected she didn't entirely mind. Ryan found her later that night, sitting alone in the cargo bay. The ship's lights were dimmed to a low amber glow, and Sella was perched on a crate, staring at the stars through the narrow viewport. He hesitated in the doorway. "Didn't think you were the stargazing type." "I'm not," she said quietly. "I'm the homesick type." That tone, soft, unguarded, was rare for her. He moved closer, careful not to startle her. "Ketra 7 not doing it for you?" She gave a humorless laugh. "Ketra 7 isn't home." Nowhere, as Rian leaned against the crate beside her, saying nothing. Silence stretched, filled by the hum of the ship's core. Then she sighed, tail curling around her legs. "You deserve to know. If you're smart, you'll quit before this gets complicated." "I'm not that smart," he said. She looked at him, then really looked. "My full name is Saver Marai. My father governs the Vulpine Spire worlds, and I'm supposed to be bonded to a political partner by now." Ryan blinked. "You're a princess?" "Not exactly," she said, frowning. "Our hierarchy doesn't work like yours, but close enough to make my life miserable." He whistled. "And here, I thought you were just another overqualified mechanic with trust issues." Her lips twitched, almost smiling. "Half right. Why'd you run?" Sella's gaze drifted back to the stars. "Because they wanted obedience. I wanted choice. I'm not meant to serve anyone, not even my own kind." He studied her for a long moment, the black hair that caught the light like polished glass, the stubborn tilt of her jaw, the quiet ache beneath it all. "For what it's worth," he said softly. "You're doing fine on your own." Silka turned to him, eyes sharp and wet all at once. "You think so? I know so." Her ears tilted back, slightly uncertain. "You humans, you always say things like that. Simple, reckless." "That's our brand," he grinned. "Gets us through the day." She shook her head, smiling now despite herself. "You're infuriating." "Yeah," he said, "but I make good coffee." The moment hung between them, light and fragile, like gravity had eased. Then a sudden ping from the columns shattered it. Sella's datapad flashed with a message, and her expression froze. Ryan leaned in. "What is it? An encrypted trace?" Her voice dropped. "From the authority tracking signal?" She nodded slowly. "They found the ship." Ryan's humor vanished. "Then we move now." Sella stared at the stars one last time, then pushed off the crate and grabbed her toolkit. "You really don't scare easy, do you?" "Terrified," he said, already heading for the engine bay. "But I work better that way." Sella followed, tail flicking with tension. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. This reckless human wasn't going to abandon her, and that terrified her even more. The alarm klaxons hit like thunder through the Freyr's hull. Red lights washed the corridors as the captain's voice barked over comms. "Incoming authority cruiser. I want every system hot in 30 seconds, or we're toast." Ryan was already in the engine bay, sleeves rolled up, hands moving faster than thought. Sella bursting behind him for bristling datapad, flickering with code. "They've locked tractor beams. We cannot run them unless we override the drive safeties." "That'll cook the coils," he said. "It'll also keep us alive." He met her gaze, saw the fear behind her composure, and nodded once. "All right, show me the line." She slid beside him, their shoulders brushing as she ripped open the maintenance hatch. Blue plasma light bathed them both, humming hot against their skin. "You'll need to bridge the regulator manually," she said. He frowned. "That means standing in the field while it charges?" "Correct." "That's suicide." "Also correct," he grinned. Because what else could you do when the universe decided to kill you again? Guess I've done dumber things before breakfast. Sella's ears flattened. Ryan, don't you dare. Relax, he said, snapping on a pair of insulated gloves that had seen better decades. I've got you to pull me out if I fry. Your optimism is statistically unjustified. Yeah, he said, stepping into position. But it's charming, right? She muttered something that sounded suspiciously affectionate in Volpine. The reactor roared as he connected the manual coupler, energy spilling out in violent arcs that made the floor tremble. Sparks danced between them, literal and otherwise. Sella's voice cut through the din. 50% power. Hold it there. Trying, he shouted. Your species ever consider making cables less bitey? Her tail lashed. Less talking, more surviving. The ship lurched as the engines came online. The entire deck vibrated, and for one horrible second, Ryan thought the containment field would blow. Then silence. The hum evened out, steady and strong. Sella stared at the readings, disbelief dawning. It worked. Of course it worked, he said, panting. We're good. Overcomes. The captain yelled, Jump! Drives ready! Punch it! Sella didn't wait. She slammed the activation key. The stars outside twisted into ribbons of light. The freighter tearing free of the Authority cruiser's grasp. The jump field expanded, and just like that, they were gone. When the hum finally faded, Ryan slumped against the console, laughing breathlessly. Still alive. Sella knelt beside him, scanning his vitals with trembling hands. You shouldn't have done that. He gave a tired smile. You're welcome, she glared at him. But there was no venom in it now, only something softer, dangerously close to worry. Reckless human. Yeah, he murmured, eyes half closed, but effective. For a long moment, either moved. The stars outside shifted back into focus, cold and endless. But in that tiny bay, it felt like the whole galaxy had paused to breathe with them. Sella's hand lingered on his shoulder longer than it needed to. You saved us. Rian cracked an eye open. Guess that makes us even. She shook her head slowly. No, Ryan, you don't understand. Her voice was quiet now, almost reverent. You didn't just save me. You defied the Authority. You'll be hunted too. He gave a half smile. Wouldn't be the worst company to run with. Sella's tail flicked once, then softly she whispered, Foolish human. But this time, the words sounded like a compliment. The Kestrel's wing limped through hyperspace for 3 10 hours before finally dropping out near an abandoned mining station orbiting a dead moon. The whole groaned. Lights flickered, but they were alive. And off the Authority sensors for now. Ryan exhaled hard, rubbing his neck. Remind me never to do that again. Solka, standing beside him at the console, replied dryly. Dowley noted, Well, attempt suicidal jumps on alternating Thursdays. He chuckled, then coughed. His gloves were singed, fingertips raw. We should run diagnostics. The drive's bleeding power. I'll handle it, she said, scanning his hands. You need rest. Yeah, but her tail flicked sharply. That wasn't a suggestion. For once, he didn't argue. Hours later, Ryan found her again in the auxiliary bay, kneeling beside the engine core. The faint blue light made her black hair shimmer like liquid metal. She didn't hear him at first. She was humming, a low, wistful tune that echoed off the empty walls. He leaned on the railing, listening. Didn't know you sang. She startled, nearly dropping her tool. I don't. That was reflex. It was nice, he said simply. Her ears tilted back, uncertain how to process the compliment. It's an old work song. My mother used to hum it during calibrations. Guess some things stick. Sella nodded slowly. I used to think I'd forget it. I wanted to, but then she gestured at the engine. Turns out running doesn't erase what's inside you. Ryan descended the ladder, stepping close enough that the warmth of the reactor haloed them both. Running doesn't fix much, he said. Trust me, I've tried. She looked up, studying him. Then why do you keep helping me? Because someone should, he said, quiet but certain. Because you deserve to choose where you belong. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then, barely above a whisper, You talk like you actually believe that. I do? Her tail swayed behind her, slow and uncertain. You're strange, Rian. He smiled faintly. That's been said. Their eyes met, and something unspoken hung there, warm, electric, fragile. She looked away first, flustered. You should get some sleep before you start improvising philosophy. Sure, he said, turning to leave, but for what it's worth, you don't have to hum alone. Sella blinked, lips parting. Then he was gone, boots echoing down the corridor. She stared after him, heart beating too fast for reasons she didn't dare name. Later that night, she found him asleep at his workstation, arms folded across the console. His breathing was steady, peaceful. For a moment, she just watched the way his hair fell across his forehead, the faint grease smudge on his jaw, so human, so stubbornly alive. Without thinking, she reached out, brushing her fingertips lightly against his hand. Warm, steady. He stirred, murmuring, "Sula?" She froze. "You were snoring." He smiled sleepily. "Liar, go back to sleep." He did surprisingly easily. Sela lingered another moment before whispering almost too softly for the stars to hear. "Thank you, human." Her tail brushed the floor as she turned and walked out, never noticing the faint smile that curved Ryan's lips after she was gone. The peace didn't last. Ryan was halfway through reattaching the engine couplings when the sensor alarms screamed. Sela burst into the bay for bristling datapad in hand. "Authority Patrol 1 cruiser vectoring straight for us." Ryan swore under his breath. They traced the jump signature. "We cannot run them this time." She said not with the coil still unstable. He looked at her then, at the core. "Then we don't run." Her ears flicked. "I hope you're not suggesting." "I am." He tossed her a wrench. "We rigged the coolant lines to overload and vent a plasma cloud. Fake our destruction." She caught him midair, eyes wide. "That's insane." "Yep, but it'll work." Solka stared at him for a moment too long, then sighed. "Of course, I'd fallen with a human whose plans rely on improbable success rates." He grinned. "See, you're learning." Together they tore through the panels, sealing bypass valves and rerouting the flow regulators. Sparks rained from the ceiling as the ship shuddered under the first distant hit from the cruiser's weapons. "Shields at 20%. The captain barked over comms. "Whatever you two are doing, make it quick." Ryan jammed the final clamp into place. "On your mark." Solka typed furiously, tails snapping like a whip. "Mark and 32. The ship rocked violently as another blast hit the hull. Now Ryan slammed the release. The coolant lines exploded in a roar of blue flame, filling the void with a blinding wave of plasma. The Kestrel's wing dove through it, vanishing into the chaos. From the authorities' scanners, it looked like a total detonation. Inside the cockpit, alarms screamed, heat shimmered, and Sela clung to the console as Ryan wrestled the controls. Come on, don't fry on me now." The screen flickered once, then cleared. No pursuers, just drifting wreckage and silence. Sela exhaled shakily. "They bought it." Ryan leaned back, heartbeat pounding. "Told you." She turned toward him, eyes bright. "You're completely mad." He shrugged. "Got to keep things interesting." For a heartbeat, the tension broke, replaced by laughter. Raw, exhausted laughter that filled the cockpit until Sela had to wipe her eyes. "You realize?" she said between breaths. "We're technically dead now." "Could be worse," Ryan said. "We've got a working ship, some supplies, and decent company." Sela's ears lowered slightly, her smile softening. "You'd really stay hidden out here. No credits, no ports, no safety with you," he said. "Yeah, I could do worse." Her tail flicked once, slow, uncertain, but full of meaning. "You're impossible, human." "Maybe," he said, meeting her gaze. "But you're smiling again." She caught herself, ears twitching. "Don't get used to it. Too late." A soft silence followed, filled only by the hum of cooling systems and the faint whisper of distant stars. Sela looked at him, then really looked, and the humor in her eyes melted into something warmer. "You risked your life for me." "Twice now," he shrugged. "You make it a habit of needing saving." "Or maybe you make it a habit of staying," she said quietly. That silenced him. Outside, the plasma cloud drifted away, leaving only empty space behind. The Kestrel's wing floated unseen, hidden among debris and light. Sela turned back to the stars, whispering more to herself than him. "For the first time in my life, I don't want to keep running." Ryan smiled faintly. "Then don't." And for once, she didn't argue. When the systems finally cooled, the Kestrel's wing drifted in the quiet dark like a ghost. No alarms, no engines, just the faint hum of life support and the slow heartbeat of surviving metal. Brian sat cross-legged on the deck, stripping burnt insulation from a cable. The smell of scorched polymer still clung to the air. Sela crouched opposite him, tail curled neatly around her boots, a datapad balanced on her knees. "Diagnostics say we're stable," she murmured. "Minimal power draw. Cloaking field holding. Good." He flexed the sore hand. "Means I can finally stop pretending I know what I'm doing." She smiled, small, genuine. "You fooled the universe, apparently." He looked up at her, then, in the soft amber light. The hard edges of command were gone. She looked young, almost shy, strands of black hair falling across her face. "Not the universe," he said. "Just you." Her ears flicked, and she pretended to study the datapad. "Flattery will not earn you extra rations. Wasn't fishing for any. Then you're bad at strategy." He laughed under his breath, and the sound filled the room like warmth returning to cold metal. Later, they shared a quiet meal, nutrient packs, and lukewarm coffee. Sela took a sip, grimaced, and pushed the cup back. "How do humans drink this willingly? It builds character or destroys taste buds. Same thing." She laughed softly, tails swishing against the floor. The sound made him forget for a moment that they were fugitives hiding in a dead sector. Afterward, they climbed to the observation blister where the moon's pale light bled through the reinforced glass. Sulka pressed a hand against it. When I was little, I used to think stars were holes poked in the sky by the gods. Ryan tilted his head. And now I think maybe they're windows. Places we're meant to see through, not worship. He leaned beside her. Windows are nice. Means you can decide which ones to open. She looked at him, eyes glowing faintly gold in the reflection. You make everything sound simple. Maybe it is. He shrugged. You're free now. You can go anywhere. Do anything. Her ears lowered. And you? I'll keep fixing things until they stop breaking. Perhaps, she said slowly. You could start with me. He blinked, caught off guard. You're not broken, Sela. She smiled, tired but real. Maybe just dented. Without thinking, he reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. She didn't pull away this time. The silence stretched, soft and fragile, until she leaned into his hand, eyes closing. Outside, the dead moon turned silver and still. Sela whispered, Do humans always change the people they meet? Ryan's voice was low. Only the ones worth changing for. Her tail coiled gently around his wrist, a quiet, instinctive gesture of trust. For the first time since fleeing her world, she felt something other than fear. Something that might one day be called peace. Dawn came slow in deep space. There was no sunrise, just the gradual awakening of the ship as lights brightened from sleep mode and the hum of machinery returned. Sela was already awake, perched cross-legged in the cockpit, staring at the hollow map that traced endless routes through empty stars. Ryan stepped in, still half-dressed, rubbing the back of his neck. You look like you've been up all night plotting a revolution. Something smaller, she said. Of course. He leaned over her shoulder, close enough to smell the faint ozone of her fur and the tang of coffee she pretended not to like. Anywhere exciting? Empty sector. No colonies, no scanners. There's an asteroid belt with enough ore to trade quietly. Sounds peaceful, he said almost suspiciously. So, she smiled faintly. You don't trust peace? Not when I'm with you. Her tail flicked his leg. Wise. They worked through the morning, fixing what could be fixed. Realigning stabilizers, reprogramming sensors, patching the hole. Ryan handled the welding. Sela calibrated the diagnostics. Between sparks and laughter, they began to sound less like fugitives and more like partners. Hard to believe, he said, tightening a panel. That a week ago you threatened to vaporize me for turning on a generator. You deserved it, she said. And now, Sela glanced at him, pretending to consider. Now, I'd only vaporize you slightly. Progress, he said, smirking. Her eyes softened. Maybe when the last system came online, they both stood there side by side, staring at the status lights cycling green. It wasn't victory, not really, but it was theirs. Later they shared the quiet of the observation blister again. The stars hung close, thick as dust motes on glass. Sela spoke first, her voice thoughtful. You know, black hair among my kind, it means we're meant to walk paths that don't exist yet. Ryan raised an eyebrow. So, you were destined to break rules? Destined to rewrite them. He chuckled. Then you definitely met the right human. She turned to him, her gaze bright and steady. And what does it mean for your kind? To keep fighting for people you barely know. He smiled faintly. Means we're human. We do stupid things for the right reasons. Sela's ears tilted back slightly. Not an irritation this time, but wonder. Strange creatures. Thank you. She laughed softly, the sound quiet and musical in the hollow dark. The ship's console pinged. A new contract alert. Unmarked origin. Decent pay, high risk. Ryan glanced at her. Well, seems the universe just offered us a bad idea. Sela leaned forward, reading the details. Hazard sector, radiation storms, low survival rate. Perfect, he said. What do you think, partner? Her tail swished once, slow and certain. I think I'd rather face the storms with you than peace without you. He blinked, caught off guard by the weight of it. Then he smiled. That's a yes, then. Sela keyed the navigation controls, her voice low. Let's see where the next bad idea takes us. The Kestrel's wing turned slowly, thrusters igniting in pale blue arcs. As the stars shifted and the black stretched wide before them, she reached out, hesitant at first, and let her fingers brush his. Ryan didn't say anything. He just held on. The ship leapt forward into the unknown, carrying 2 runaways and 1 shared truth. Sometimes freedom wasn't a place, it was a person. The Kestrel's wing vanished into the glow of a dying star, but somewhere far beyond the sensors of the Vulpine Authority, a black-haired engineer and a reckless human mechanic laughed together in the dark, rewriting every rule the galaxy had ever tried to give them. Enjoyed the story? Like, comment, and subscribe for more human meets alien adventures across the galaxy.